بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين.
يا الإسلام في الشرع والدين سالك بما نركع ونسجد لأجله، ما حكم من هلت دموعه من العين من ظلم إسرائيل يمسيه.
Let me tell you the job of the ulama, because today they don't understand it's a major part of their job as ulama to stand up for the weak of this ummah.
ما حكم جاهل في شوارع فلسطين يبكي ويشكي ما لقي من يشله، أبوها متوفي وأخوته مساجين وأمه شهيدة مع ثلاثة.
The ulama were ulama back then, not like what you see today.
Qutuz needed wealth now, so he went to collect for the army, and he had ulama to his side, and he chose a righteous alim, a beacon of truth, Al-Izz ibn Abd salam. Al-Izz ibn Abd salam supported him with his famous fatawa and advice. Al-Izz issued stunning fatawa that inspired the ummah. Why do you think people listen to Al-Izz ibn Abd salam? The people listened to Al-Izz because he had a history of speaking against rulers, supposed Muslim rulers who aligned themselves with the Crusaders. He used to speak about them. If Al-Izz ibn Abd salam was living today, the surrenderous Murji'ah rejects, the worshippers and slaves of the rulers, would call him a takfiri and a khariji. When Qutuz went to Al-Izz ibn Abd salam, out of all the ulama, because sincere leaders, no sincere ulama, he went to him, he said, what do you think we should do? Should we go on and attempt to defend ourselves against the Tatar, or should we wait or surrender or what? 50 years nearly, half a century or so, no one dared to stand up to him. Al-Izz in a firm, solid heart said, fight them and I guarantee victory. Fight them and I guarantee victory. That's all he said. Assuring them, be strong with Allah. Qutuz told them, but we got no money. And there was a lot of ulama in that gathering. But Al-Izz took center stage. This is time for the men to speak up. That's time for the men. Al-Izz said, okay, the ruling on this, when enemies try to invade Muslim lands, you must use all the wealth in the house of the Muslims. Bayt Mal al-Muslimin, all that goes to the army to gather and make an army. They're literally making an army out of scratch. When there's no longer money in the Bayt Mal al-Muslimin, the house of the wealth of the Muslim, the leader can take from the Ummah, can impose taxes, necessary taxes. He can impose taxes on them, and that was the issue. Then the leaders were there. There was some leaders there. Some of them were wealthy. So look what Al-Izz said. Before you impose those taxes I'm telling you about, the leaders got to start by bringing in all their excess wealth. Anything not essential and necessary for them, bring it on. And the leaders complied. During the Umayyad leadership, there was a man called Yazid ibn Amr ibn Hubayra. In the time of the Umayyad, the governor of Iraq. Al-Muwaffaq, in his chain of narration, said Ibn Hubayra had issues governing Iraq. So he gathered the fuqaha. And among the fuqaha he gathered was Ibn Abi Layla, Ibn Shibrima, and Dawood ibn Abi Hind. These are scholars nearly equivalent to Abu Hanifa. He gave them positions. He said, you guys are the judges. And then he was known to be generous to the scholars. And it actually was said that most of his wealth went to the scholars. See, the masses of the ummah don't really rely on the word of the leaders. They have more faith and trust in the ulama. That's why the leaders always bring the ulama to justify their actions. So he sent to Abu Hanifa, he said, these are the judges and you're the head judge. You're the head judge. And here's the seal. He gave him a ring and here's the seal, take it. Abu Hanifa said, no, this is a Muslim leader. He may have had some oppression here and there. He may have oppressed his people, but he's Muslim. And no one of the Muslim leaders today, of the so-called Muslim leaders today, can be compared to this man. Ibn Hubayra said, Wallahi, if you don't take it, I'm going to lash you. The scholars surrounding here in the palace said, some of them just want to earn their living and kick back and relax, go back to their wives. Some of them want to do a seminar and go back to their children and mansions and chill out and enjoy life, earn a nice paycheck, get some bonuses from a little bit of seminars and talks and invitation they do. But then you got the righteous like Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, who teach, they're moved by matters of the Ummah, they take the forefront responsibilities in matters of the Ummah. Those are the righteous scholars. The other scholars tried to convince Abu Hanifa. They said, Abu Hanifa, take the position. He told you he's going to lash you. Don't subject yourself to harm. Don't kill yourself. Don't subject yourself to imprisonment. These are the other scholars trying to convince him, diffuse the situation. Abu Hanifa said, Wallah, if he tells me go count the doors of the mosques in Wasil, I won't do it. If he tells me just merely go for me over there and count the doors of the mosque and tell me how many doors there, I won't do it. You want me to possibly behead someone unjustly and stamp on it? He didn't want to take a position with the rulers, which in itself possibly is nothing wrong with being a judge. But if Ibn Abu Hanifa rahimahullah feared he might oppress or wrong someone out of love for a leader, or maybe out of fear for that leader, and then he'd be held accountable by Allah for that. He basically wanted to stay away from the gates of the leader. Abu Hanifa felt he may be tempted by entering the gates of the rulers, that he may be fooled into something and misguided by them. So what should the ulama say with the rulers of today? He said, I won't even accept counting the doors of the masajid. You want me to accept the position of a judge? Yet look at the other scholars. Many were good, but they took positions. Abu Hanifa refused. Look who history documented. During their time, they were the ones looked up to. If they had Twitter or Facebook, they would be the most prominent. They were all over the media. They were all over in the scenes. They could go in any masjid and lecture. They were very well known to the masses. The ignorant people don't distinguish a lot of the times, because the rulers spend so much on advertising for these scholars and promoting their names, so they can affirm their own positions by having these scholars around them. Who knows the judge during Abu Hanifa's time, Abu Layla? Who knows him today? Out of any of you know? Ibn Shibrima, Dawood ibn Abi Hind, any of you know him? Any of you know these names? Those were the prominent people during Abu Hanifa's time. Who does not know Abu Hanifa today? Who does not know Abu Hanifa today? Now it's gotten to a point where in the West, it's not even in Muslim lands. Now they have the ulama who customize a new religion, a modernized religion, according to how, not Muslim, so-called Muslim leader, but according to how the kuffar want it, to please the kuffar. Listen to this hadith. Abu Dawood narrated in hadith sahih عن أبو هريرة رضي الله عنه. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: من تعلم علما مما يبتغى به وجه الله ولم يتعلمه إلا ليصيب به عرضا من عرض الدنيا لم يجد عرف الجنة يوم القيامة. Whoever learns a knowledge that should be only sought for the sake of Allah, he learns it for the sake of dunya, or this dunya, or other than the sake of Allah, he will not smell the fragrance of heaven. Arf al-Jannah means the fragrance of heaven. The fragrance of heaven is 40 years in one hadith, 70 years in one hadith, 100 years in another hadith. 3 authentic narration. Any other narration is not authentic. You do that, you learn a knowledge for other than this. This is a severe warning for anyone who learns any type of Islamic knowledge for any worldly gain. If this is just to earn a worldly gain, then how is it for those who learn this knowledge to serve the heads of kufr wherever they may be, or to promote kufr in the east and the west? It's a major sin for merely having the wrong intention on this knowledge. So imagine if you use it for other than that. Just the intention itself is a major sin if you don't do it for the sake of Allah. So imagine if you misguide people with it. Rarely anyone today knows those scholars who were popular during Abu Hanifa's time, who took the position. Even though many or most were not really deviants or hypocrites. Some clearly took the position to avoid the hardships, or to avoid scrutiny of the leaders during their time. But they were really not hypocrites, many of them. No one knows them today. But who doesn't know Abu Hanifa today? Allah took the blessing out of their knowledge because of what they did. They might have had a temporary, imaginary blessing that some may have thought of it was a blessing, but it faded and then it was gone. Look at Abu Hanifa and look at his knowledge. Look at his legacy, look at his knowledge, look at his madhab, it lives on.
The ulama were ulama back then. Not like what you see today of those so-called ulama who've reclined to this dunya and sold their deen and detached themselves from the worries of the ummah. Ulama were moved by the causes of this ummah. In fact, Ibn Qudama, who I mentioned last halaqah, one of the biggest ulama of the Hanbali madhab of all time, who served the Hanbali fiqh, as I told you, with his writings for different various levels on the Hanbali madhab. You get an image from what he wrote and what he did of work, that all he did was sit with his feather and his ink pot, writing day and night. He did do that, but he had another side of him that many don't know. He was in the forefront with the soldiers under the leadership of Salah ad-Din's army, and he fought in the front lines, and he helped liberate and conquer Akka and Tabariya and Hittin and Tibnin and Saida and Beirut and Asqalan, all the way until they liberated Quds. That's what the Crusaders occupied it. They say he spent his time between teaching and jihad.
Let me tell you the job of the ulama, because today they don't understand it's a major part of their job as ulama to stand up for the weak of this ummah. Make sure the ummah is treated justly. That's part of the duties of a alim. Back in the old days, people didn't go to lawyers for help, for justice. They went to the ulama for that. That's who they went to for help in getting justice or for any personal problems. لقد أرسلنا رسلنا بالبينات وأنزلنا معهم الكتاب والميزان ليقوم الناس بالقسط. We sent our messengers with clear proofs and revealed to them the scripture that mankind keep up justice. That's what they were sent with, the messengers. And the ulama are the inheritors of the messengers. Alim doesn't just recite the haram and halal and hold seminars and gets paid and then go back to his 5-star hotel. He is responsible for the weak and the oppressed of this ummah. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. He is responsible for their personal affairs, their personal problems, the injustice that goes on to them. When you read Ibn Taymiyyah's history, he was an essential part in the personal lives of all of his surroundings, especially students in his community. What hurt them, hurt him. It's documented that he would go make sure the children of his opponents and enemies who opposed him were well fed and well taken care of. A alim must give them what's beneficial for their akhirah and what's beneficial for them in this dunya. A slave would take the hand of the best man to walk on the face of this earth, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and lead them wherever she wants. Why? Why would she have the courage to do that? And why would he go with her? Because he was concerned with their affairs. What would a child want? He's concerned with what she wants. That's the duties of a alim. When you find some ulama speak the text, and it may flow out nicely, but they have no speaking or stands for the weak and oppressed of this ummah, the unfortunate of the ummah, they are not worthy of being leaders. They don't have the leadership qualifications. Then you find another group whose goal is just to be cool, to gas up people on back-to-back jokes, being deluded in their fatawa. The product they raise really resembles a rotted out tree. You see the tree, it looks good. You approach it, then you find that it's rotted out inside and you better run away from that tree because it's going to fall on you. Don't let any of that hinder you. I'm telling you, so you won't let any of that hinder you. Look up to the likes of Muhammad ibn al-Qasim, who was a 17-year-old boy. Today we call 17-year-old kids boys. 17-year-old Muhammad ibn al-Qasim, a child in today's terms. But you know who that man was? He's the man who took Islam all the way down to a Sindh in Hind. Meaning today he's in his grave, laying in his grave, and the ajr of every Indian, Pakistan, in the surrounding areas goes to him. Abdullah ibn Ziyad was the governor of Khurasan when he was less than 23 years old. Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anh took Islam to Yemen when he was less than 30 years old. Ja'far ibn Abi Talib took Islam to Abyssinia, to Africa, when he was still a youth. Mus'ab ibn Umair took Islam to Medina, established the Islamic State, and said to the Prophet ﷺ, come here, O Prophet of Allah, we've established the Islamic State, when he was still a youth. The one who carried Islam to Yemen, a youth, to Africa, a youth, to Medina, the Islamic State, a youth. Men raised by Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He raised lions in the den, not chicken in the coop. These were the leaves of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam's tree. Abu Muslim al-Khawlani at the time of at the end of the life of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the beginning of the time of Abu Bakr. At the time where in Yamama, the Sahaba were dying by the hundreds, putting an end to Musaylim, the liar who claimed to be a messenger. Abu Muslim was alone in Yemen, in a part of the world where another liar came up and said he's the messenger, Al-Aswad al-Ansi. Abu Muslim, a young youth, put an end to him by a few words of da'wah, he said. They put him in a fire. Allah rescued him from the fire just like he rescued Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim al-Nakhai was teaching hadith. His name was flowing all over the chains of hadith before he was 18 years old. The father of Arabic grammar, who you all know of, who outlined the Arabic grammar, Sibawayh, he died when he was 32. You are effective. You are effective. You are the most effective part of this ummah. You're the backbone of this ummah. You're the muscular body of this ummah. You are the beating heart of this ummah. You are in the forefront of this ummah. This ummah would never succeed without you.
He walks in prison, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ahmad ibn Taymiyyah, and he's carried out Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah from prison said, if the kings knew the happiness that that we feel in our hearts, they would come to us and try to take it with the tip of their swords. When one's heaven is in his breast, there's very little prison or harm like prison can do to him. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, Inna fil dunya jannah, man lam yadkhulha lam yadkhul jannat al-akhirah. In this world is a heaven. Who doesn't enter this heaven will not enter the heaven of the life after. What heaven, Ibn Taymiyyah? The heaven of submission to Allah, of worship to Allah, of being subservient to Allah, giving Allah victories when others back away, giving Allah victories when the sellouts back away. That's the pleasure only a righteous person feels. He feels as though he's in a Jannah. He feels as though he's in a Jannah in this life. He says, if you don't enter that Jannah, you won't enter the Jannah of the life after. Ibn Hajar, rahimahullah, said in his book, in his commentating on his book, Al-Radd al-Wafir, he said, وشهرة ابن تيمية أشهر من الشمس وتلقيب بشيخ الإسلام في عصره باق إلى الآن على الألسنة الزكية ويستمر غدا كما كان بالأمس ولا ينكر ذلك إلا من جهل مقداره أو تجنب الإنصاف. Ibn Hajar rahimahullah says, Ibn Taymiyyah's popularity is more popular than the sun. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah's name remains Shaykh al-Islam today as fresh as it remained Shaykh al-Islam during his time. And it will continue to remain on Shaykh al-Islam. Today we say that hundreds of years later. It's true what Ibn Hajar said. And no one will or can deny that except one who's ignorant of his status or has no justice. This was a man who was in prison. Al-Hafidh al-Shahir, Alam al-Din al-Barazali, in his book on history, he said, لم يوجد في الإسلام من اجتمع في جنازته كما اجتمع في جنازة ابن تيمية. No one gathered in a funeral like those who gathered in the funeral of Ibn Taymiyyah, except of course Ahmad ibn Hanbal. And he said the reason is because Ahmad ibn Hanbal was in Baghdad, and in Baghdad there was more masses, more population over there. Who does not know Ibn Taymiyyah? Who doesn't know Ibn Taymiyyah? He safeguarded Islam, so Allah safeguarded his name and mention. And his knowledge continues today. How many times a day the students of knowledge and masses the Ummah say rahimahullah? Other scholars who were more popular during his time, they were more well known during his time. They're the ones who dominated the scene during this time. Some may not be bad, but gave in a little bit to rulers. Some who just merely took positions. Some who just merely refused to take stands. They are rarely ever mentioned in the names. Ibn Taymiyyah is fresh on the tongues, on the masses of the Muslim tongues, as fresh as it was
when he was alive. If not, even more today.